Welcome back to Naval Action and episode 54 of A Letter to the King. If you're new to the series, to A Letter to the King, it's my attempt to keep us up to date with what's happening on Euro PvP 1. Although given we're in the shadow of the Great Wipe, it should probably be renamed Naval in Action, a tweet to the King. Let us not be held back by such things and see what is going on. So fundamentally, this is the picture that in my mind's eye is the end of the war. So this is where we are pretty much as the wipe was announced, and we can see we were in mid-throws. If we start off here in the east, the French had managed really to block and stop the Dutch and the British grabbing hold of the continental South American bloc. Caracas, Pampatar, had held, Cumana had held week after week after week. Equally, the Brits had pretty much managed to hold on to Bridgetown, Orinoco, and south of the Windward Islands. The Danes had secured Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The French and the Swedes had proven they were more than capable of holding on to the west side of Haiti. The Spanish had pretty much lost control of Cuba proper. The Americans and the Spanish were sharing the spoils, one could say, in Florida. The Spanish had blocked any attempt for the Brits to move up north of Belize into the Yucatan and the Mexican Bight. And the little islands were a biffo ground for all and sundry, swapping hands left, right and centre. Islamadora changed hands more frequently than a £5 note. And that's pretty much where it was. So it was a good war. It went in twos and fro's. For a while, it looked like the Eastern Alliance were going to lose a grip down south here. And if they had, I think that would have been trouble for them. But however, the Danes' persistence at hanging on in the north here and the French ability to hold on in the south pretty much meant that the tide had turned a little bit just as we came to the great sundering of the servers and the split. Now, what happened this week? Well, the alliances are sort of fixed, but given this lot are going to head off to one server and this lot are going to head off to another server, these alliances really, they're all a bit meaningless at the moment. There was a few port battles, but hardly any where there was what you might call proper action. Numbers are down to about 30%. So the French sent their normal 5 ships to try and capture Caracas, and those 5 ships were repelled once again, the Dutch, sorry. The French had to go at Bridgetown, and that was repelled. However, the French did take south of Bridgetown, as did the Swedes, so Orinoco and the islands to the south of Bridgetown were snapped up. The Spanish managed to move into the middle of, I think, Puerto de España or something, the middle of the Dutch holdings, where they just simply, there's no one turning up to defend it. The Brits equally managed to finally nick the uncapturable Salamanca again, because nobody turned up to defend it. The French had a crazy go at Savannah Lavar, which was kind of a surprise to see that pop up. I'm imagining that's just people PvPing around the waters of KPR, which is a bit of a hobby for all and sundry. And in fact, really, that's where you're going to get your best PvP at the moment. There's probably 3 places you can get your best PvP. The organised small battles, general biffo south of KPR, sort of between what some of us call New Zealand or Japan, the little islands to the east of Pedro Cay, all the way through to sort of the end of the shallows here and Savannah Lamar. This is just a good ganking ground, people throwing their ships away before the Great Wipe. And equally off the Freetown here, La Navas, there's quite a lot of organised. Come on everybody, jump out of port and let's just have a big scrap going on. But other than that, it's all a bit futile and difficult to get excited about with, 200 people on at peak. But all's not lost. The wipe's coming. There's a lot of people looking forward to it. And there's been a lot of people discussing what they're going to do post-wipe this week. So let's just focus on that a little bit. So first of all, the Great Wipe. So there have been some changes. We were going to merge the PvE servers into global and have an area, if you recall, that was going to be locked down for PvEers. Well, that's been cancelled now. There was general disgruntlement from the PvE community that they would have to sail in the sullied waters where the PvPers are. I think quite a few of the PvPers didn't like giving up a big chunk of the map. So that's going to stay where it is. They're sort of changing the way. So initially I think they were just going to delete your characters. Now if your character is active, they're going to keep your character. And now you can then delete it and choose to recreate it under a different nation. But what's important is that you're only going to get your XP back through redeemables. And to do that, you sort of have to make sure that they recognize your account's active. So fight one battle on any character you wish to retain between now and the Great Wipe. So just take a midshipman's mission, go out there, earn some XP so it registers XP. Finish the battles if you want to. I did, because you can't shoot a yacht and then leave it, can you? And then that'll mean post-wipe you'll log on, and if you want to stay with the nation you're on, what you'll then be able to do, this is a bit like on the test server, you'll be able to go in there and redeem your experience. You'll probably get you will get your crafting and your Admiral level or Commodore level experience back. If you'd wanted to change nations though, you really need to set that character up with the new nation, I believe, or certainly don't redeem. Against your account, you'll only get one chance to redeem, so you could delete your character, recreate it as, say, a Dirty Frenchie, and then do your redeem there, and you'll get your XP back over there. Blueprints are no longer going to be random drops. They're going to drop just progressively, so if you're crafting a 4th rate, you'll get the associated 3rd rate blueprint. When I know more about that, I'll explain it a bit better. The wipe, well, they still say the sort of 20th. Ish, but I have heard them also talk about the end of the month, so it might be the 30th ish. That's so long away. I don't really like the sound of that. 4 weeks of finding other games to play to fill the gaps in. Please don't make me go back to Diablo. The test server is currently running way off what they're talking about, so it's still got 3 Jura ships on it. It's got the new ship integrity bar, the 3rd bar on your ship. So I've been around on the test server a little bit, having a potter around, but it doesn't reflect almost anything they're talking about coming in the new patch. So let's wait for that. I've heard the 10th. Now you'll see with the PvE change, and you'll see earlier on where they got rid of the land titles piece, there's going to be lots of changes toing and froing. Part of that is because they put an idea out there, they gauge the community response to it, and they react. So that's a good thing, because they're listening, right? So, you know, the PvE guys, enough of them said, don't do it, don't do it. So they didn't do it. They're also trying out some new things. So this is good and it's bad. It means that one minute you think you're crafting things with your left hand, then you find out you're crafting things with your right hand, then you find out you're going to have to craft with your feet. So it's all a bit frustrating. You know, keep your materials, stock your materials, break your ships up, craft lots of materials. Oh, wait a minute, we're going to destroy all your materials. There are a few mixed messages. Don't worry about it. After the wipe, we'll be into a sort of new world, and we can build from there, and hopefully the game can improve in lots of areas. A lot of folks watch my videos and try and decide whether or not to buy the game. Not perhaps so much Letter to the Kings, but certainly, you know, my videos on, say, constitutions or port battles, or just videos of Biffo and how to make money and stuff. And a few folks have messaged me saying, you know, should I buy the game now? Well, the wipe is probably least impacting to new players, because you keep your XP, you keep your crafting experience, and in fact you'll probably end up, if you were a new player who joined now, you'll probably end up with more after the wipe, because you'll get 4 redeemables with the new ships than many of us did after 2 or 3 weeks play. So I wouldn't be too bothered. You've got a bit of a chance to go in now. It's a bit quiet. You're less likely to get stomped on every 5 minutes. You can learn to sail, do some of the PvE missions, jump into some of the PvP missions, have a biff outside Kingston Port Royal, or Lanavas, or a few of the other hotspots. So if you fancy spending your $40 or whatever it is in your local currency, I wouldn't be too dissuaded. Probably the biggest weakness right now is that a lot of the big clans are very, very quiet, so you're going to miss out on joining a clan. But if you're really itching to jump in, then I wouldn't say don't jump in. You can spend 2 or 3 weeks learning all the things you need to learn, asking people to help you. They've got nothing else to do, they probably will. And then post-wipe, you'll be starting on a more or less even footing with everybody else, so I wouldn't worry about that. But if you're not into the way of the alpha and the way of the early access, this probably really isn't your cup of tea. So we had an interesting discussion. 50 or 60 captains jumped into Teamspeak, representing many of the nations from Euro PvP1, where we were trying to work out who will be playing what come the big wipe day, and fundamentally it looks like most of the Brits, the Americans, the pirates, and a lump of Swedes will be essentially staying on what will become the global server, with the majority of the French, the Spanish heading to Euro, a number of Swedes there too. The Danes are very much looking for where is the viable biffo at, so that might drive them to Euro because of their time zone. But they are very much looking for the viable biffo, so we'll see. On the global server, which is the one I'll be covering, just because I live in Australia, and my buddies that I clan up with are staying on global. What it looks like is that the 3 primary factions that will be fighting around the world will probably be the US versus the Brits, with the pirates kicking the pants out of whoever they want, whenever they want. There may be a Swedish contingent, there may be a Danish contingent, and at the moment that's what we're expecting it to be. So probably more like the other PvP server, to be honest, with those being the things. Now, whether or not when numbers pick up we'll see a resurgent of the European nations on global, or whether or not we will eventually join the 2 worlds together, only time will tell. But right now, according to our numbers, there will be 1 person playing on the French, a dozen to 15 on the Swedes. The Dutch, the Brits, the Americans will be hanging around, but the Dutch numbers are much diminished at the moment. So the 2 primary factions will be the Brits and the Americans, and they will be enemies, irrespective of how alliances work. Based on our global discussion, they will be enemies. We may pick a few areas that we initially kick off fights over, so maybe Cuba will be the first battleground. We might try and leave Haiti for the smaller nations to fight over, just while the server settles down and until we see what sort of numbers, because leaving it for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks pre-wipe means a lot of people are going to take a break, and you don't get everybody back. You know, they discover a new game, they get into Andromeda or something, and you never see them back again. So we're not really sure what the numbers are. We want to make sure we've got ourselves some viable biffo on the global server. So that's the expectation. There was a lengthy discussion. I streamed it live. We had almost 100 people watching it. I streamed it live. It's up on my channel if you want to. It's long, so I'd save it for while you were doing something else. You're a brave man if you only watch it. We did have one of the mods join us halfway through, although he was a little sparing on the use of his microphone. He typed a lot into chat. He also gave us lots of links, so you can see lots of blueprints for some of the new ships that are coming up. But it is a long video. I love the game, so I found it all quite interesting. We flip-flopped around a little bit and went down some rat holes. But that's one of the videos on my channel. The global discussion. And we'll see what comes of that. Now, what are we going to do with Letter to the King for the next month? Because there really isn't. A, there's very few port battles. B, they're very poorly contested. And C, there's very little intel as to how they went. People can't be bothered making videos or doing screenshots and the likes. So I will try and call out any of the piffling PvP that takes place. And I know there's 200 or 300 people who are just waiting for the wipe to come now. They're not even logging on. So I will try and keep you guys up to date, keep you interested, let you know of some of the changes that are happening. And I have been asked to do some guides on bits and bobs, so I'm going to include those in Letter to the King. I'll also make them as a standalone video too. So I'm going to do some sort of what do you do the day after the wipe. But other than that, the next 2 or 3 weeks of the Letter to the King will be far briefer or not focused as heavily on PvP as they have been for the previous 53 episodes. So let's talk about how to make money. This is so let's pretend the wipe's just happened and maybe you're not much of a fighter, you're more of a crafter or a trader, or you're a jack of all trades. Probably one of the first things you need to do is get your money going so that you can buy some ports and set up some buildings and start generating the resources to build some ships. I suspect shipbuilding is going to be a worthy craft with them only having 1 durability. And the first thing you're going to need is money. Now, you can do it through missions. Everyone knows how to do it through missions. I'm going to stay off missions for a moment and look at some other ways of doing it. So I'm going to talk about doing delivery missions. So to do a delivery mission, you go to the missions tab, choose the delivery orders, choose the take order, and then you can see that basically you get asked to deliver a number of goods to a target destination with a certain amount of reward, and you can make quite a lot of money from doing these type of things, to be honest. And so let's have a little look at how that is going to work. So we're going to focus on Spanish dried fruits because we all love Spanish dried fruits and use that as our example. So you on KPR in this example, for example, but you can be anywhere. I'll talk about that in a minute. And all I do is I click Spanish dried fruits, I take the order, and now I've got that delivery order. Now, what you got to understand is how they work. When you pick up a delivery order, it will normally make you deliver it to a different national capital or somewhere about as far away. So it's normally about the same distance. So what you'll find is if you pick up at KPR, it's more often than not going to send you to Mortimer Town or one of these far islands over here. It's sort of this range. It's not an exact science, but imagine it's about this big. If you pick something up, say at Bensalem, it might at the outer edge ask you to deliver it to Great Corn. So think of your sail. It's normally about a 45-minute sail. So you have to understand the range depending on where you pick it up. If you pick something up around here, it might ask you to take it here. Now, occasionally you can get lucky and you can get a close one. But what you have to realise is the thing that you need to deliver isn't always at the port where you pick up the delivery mission. So I might be here at Bensalem, and it might ask me to take dried fruits to Great Corn, but the nearest place I can buy dried fruits, it might be Belize, or it might be Ruatan, or some other place. I'm going to have to discover that. I'll tell you how to do that in a minute. But what you've got to recognise is when you pick up a delivery order or mission, the range to deliver it, it isn't map wide. It tends to be however many squares that is, but it's about that big. That's to give you some idea. It's about that big. I've done quite a few delivery missions, and they're all sort of within that sort of range. So the first thing you need to do really is use the trader tool so you can find out, well, where can I get Spanish dried fruits? So first of all, you type in Spanish dried fruits, and then you click on the A here, and these are all the places where Spanish dried fruits are available. And then you can use this slider here to reduce down the distance so you can find somewhere that's quite near that sells the things that you need, and it gives you an indicative price. This is indicative, it can change. So if I'm, I don't know, maybe I'm out here at Bensalem, and the nearest place I can find that sells Spanish dried fruits is here, and I need to deliver it to Great Corn here. That's quite a sail I've just committed myself to. That's about an hour and 20 minutes sailing. So I might want to pick a different delivery order where perhaps I can pick up the goods sort of on the way, or even from the port I'm leaving, rather than having to do three sides of a square. So use this thing here to change the thing. The other thing to notice is the weight of the goods, because you'll need to calculate, can you fit the requisite weight into your cargo hold. And the other thing to realise is if you're delivering something from, say, KPR to Mortimer Town, you're going to need to do it with the Smuggler Flag. Now they're talking about removing the Smuggler Flag, then they've talked about keeping it, and then they've talked about removing it again, so who knows. But assuming you can deliver to a foreign port, if not, you're obviously going to have to just pick your ports or allied ports, if we still have alliances. But remember, you're going to have to use the Smuggler Flag if you're taking it into a foreign port, and if you're using the Smuggler Flag, it means you need to be in a trade ship. If you're in a battleship, you can't exit a port with the Smuggler Flag on, so that's no good at all. Plus, if you're in a battleship, everyone will spank you as soon as you come within cooey. So, in this example here, we're using Spanish dried fruits. Now, what you then need to do is understand the cost and weight of the goods. So the weight here is 2.86. Let's pretend the delivery order is to deliver 50 of these things. That means that at 305 gold each, if there was 50 of them on my delivery order, these are made up numbers incidentally, that means it'll cost me 15,000 odd gold. I will need to be able to carry 50 of them. So that's 2.86 weight, so that means I need 143 cargo space. Now, to be honest, I've cheated here and made sure I can fit it all in a single run. But what you need to recognise is that if you can't do it in a single run and you need to do it in a couple of runs, you can actually deliver them. If we go back to this thing here, I can deliver partial order and it will know that I've delivered the first 100 Cape Coast honeys or whatever. Or the first 300 food supplies, which you actually craft from components. So you can, when you find the place that sells it, you can do the calculation. How much can I carry? How much does it cost? So how much seed money do I need? Now, we'll talk in a minute about how you can maybe get a bit of seed money quickly together. But some of these trade runs can be very profitable. Now, what it tends to be is that the heavier goods give bigger profit margins. So some of the trade orders, for example, you'll see here it's like 500, 400,000. But what you'll find is that the cost to buy Sumatran pepper and the weight of Sumatran pepper might be quite high. Food supplies, it's not a big reward, but you can actually make food supplies from salt and fish and something else I can't remember off the top of my head. So you need to work out what the best profitable runs are. My tip would be these are quite heavy, 2.86. Find something that's quite light. So something that's 1 or less, so you can fit lots of it into a small trader like a Lynx. So you can carry, if it's only 1 or if it's half, you can carry 400 or 800 units. And initially work the delivery orders that perhaps render you 50 or 100,000 profit per run. And then you might buy a bigger trader with more capacity, retain a bit of seed money, and then you can do some of the heavier orders. So you've got to factor in the cost for buying the goods. You've got to factor in your carrying capacity. But you can make some good money. This one's a bit exaggerated. You probably make 50,000 on this one, but I've fiddled around with the numbers just so that I can show you the maths. But there are some very profitable ones. You can make 40, 50, 60, 70,000 K easy enough in a single run. But what's probably more important to recognise is that you can take the same trade order 3 times. So if you find a good route, or if you're really lucky and you find perhaps one where even though you're picking up here and say delivering here, you can buy the goods from here. So you get the order, sail around, pick up 1 lot of goods, deliver, pick up 2 lot of goods, deliver, pick up 3 lot of goods, deliver, and you can bang in the profit really, really quickly. So that's well worth understanding that you can do that. Now, lastly is you need seed money. So the cheaper missions, the goods might only cost you 20k, and you might only be making a 40k profit or something like that, 30k profit, right? And you do those to get started. So you can do a couple of those. And to get the money for that, you could just do a couple of missions with a mate or whatever. So you earn the money just by doing a couple of Rear Admiral missions or something. The other trick is, of course, is you're going to get 4 redeemable ships. Now, you might not need all those redeemable ships, or some of them might be quite common, or you're a crafter, and really what you need is you need seed money quickly so that you can then start crafting your own ships, and that's you're not really looking to get involved in PvP in the first week. Or doing missions in the first week. So what you might do is just sell one of your redeemable ships. They sell for 40, 50,000 gold. The 4th rates and so on and so forth. So that will be a quick way for you to get some seed money. And then once you've done one mission, you can then set up a port at the place that you pick missions up. So for example, again, if I use my example around Ben Salem, I could just decide that Ben Salem's a really good place because it gets me to deliver here, and it gets me to deliver here, it gets me to deliver here, it gets me on the worst case to deliver here. They're all acceptable sales, and most of the goods I'm trading in are around these areas. I've done my homework for a good trade route. Now I know some good trade routes, but I'm not going to tell you because I may as well just give you the money if I'm going to do that. You have to work it out yourself. Use the trader tool. Sail around, have a look at what sort of missions there are. Where do they deliver to? Where would you like to sail out of? Where would you like your operations base to be? But once you've done 1 or 2 missions and you've got yourself, say, 50k saved up, and that's enough to pay to do 2 or 3 more missions, then what I would recommend is, set up an outpost here, and if you're delivering to here, I would set up an outpost there too, and then you can quickly TP between the two, and then and before you go to bed, use a tow request to send your trader back, and these type of little shortcuts, so that when you wake up in the morning after shutdown, your ship's back at the port where you're going to be leaving from. So I would look at doing that sort of thing. Now I played with this when I started my alt up. I self-funded my alt, so my son had an account, and he's got ADD because he's bloody generation can't be asked. He's lovely, actually. If you ever listen to this, lad, you're lovely. But so I used his account as my alt, and I decided to self-fund it, and I did it through delivery missions, and I made about 400,000 gold. But I was learning my first session. It was half a day, 6 hours maybe. Made about 400,000 gold. But I was learning how to do delivery missions, so I think you could probably knock a couple of hours off that. Now, the old adage is always true, money goes to money. So once you had 400,000, I'll give this one away. There's a very expensive item you can buy here. It's not even a delivery mission, it's just an item. You can buy it here. I think that's Kingstown. It costs about 40,000 a unit, and it weighs about 450 tons, so you need a Indiaman. But you can sell it here at the Freeport and make about 15,000 per unit. So you can make 150k a run, and that's a 20-minute sale. So I had 1 million up by the next day. So it's not a race, and it's not about getting there quickly. But if you want to set up half a dozen ports so you can begin to do your ship crafting, if you just do it without thinking about it, it'll take weeks. Now, that might be cool. right? But if you want to get into the crafting, you want to start producing ships, you want to become productive, and you want to do it quickly, what you're going to want to do is have a plan for how you make some money. So don't get me wrong, it's not a race. You can take as long as you want, you can be as chill as you want, you can accidentally earn money, but it'll take you a long time to set up 6 ports and 5 production houses at level 3, plus having to buy the stuff you can't also produce on one account. So this really is just a guide to help you with that. Now, if you've got a mate, or if you can hire a mate, or a few mates, more hands makes more money. So this allows you to do a few things. Firstly, if the weight of the goods requires more than one ship, then clearly you can do it together. Secondly, one of you can go and pick up the items while the other one picks up and does the delivery missions, so you can sort of tag it, where perhaps I'd pick up the delivery missions from here and you'd be sitting down here sourcing the materials. We both sail to the destination, you'd trade it to me, and we'd share the money and the costs and all that sort of stuff. So that's really good. The other thing is that if you've got a mate, fundamentally you can use them to borrow money off, but what you do is you give them a cut. So essentially they can become your backer. This is a good way of doing it if you're in a clan perhaps and there's 2 or 3 idiots like me who play every day, but you've only got enough time to play 2 or 3 times a week. Get them to give you some seed money, 50k or whatever, and a good delivery mission route, and you just give them 10% of your profits or whatever, so they get another income stream and you get a bit of a quick start. So as always, more hands, more money. And moving on, in summary, understand the range of your mission. Use the trader tool to find where items are. Remember the slider bar to show you how far away they are from you. Understand the price and weight. Work out how you're going to get your seed money by fighting PvP missions, AI missions, capturing AI ships perhaps and selling their goods, or selling one of your redeemable ships for a quick start. And work with friends to make things quicker and, of course, more fun. It's always more fun. And also, I mean, you know, you're probably going to get attacked at some point, maybe not on the first couple of days, but eventually dirty pirates will come and attack you, or enemies will attack you. Some tips: you can sell a redeemable ship for some quick seed money. You can do multiple copies of the same mission. You can do partial deliveries. Remember to use your smuggler flag if you're sailing into dirty enemy ports. And once you're set up with a bit of seed money, build outposts at the source and the supply areas so that you can more quickly execute your delivery missions. And that's it for this week's Naval in Action. A bit different than normal. You probably didn't like it. Maybe you did like it. I don't know. Anyway, I know there's a lot of people on hiatus, so I'm trying to keep you guys up to speed with what's going on. And to be honest, I'm sort of becalmed a little bit when it comes to reporting the biff. So I'll add a few of these little guides in for the next 2 or 3 weeks and updates and everything. Until then, give us a like, give us a subscribe. I will see you on the ocean, and I will catch you.